Guys, it's Murgle, and as I told you, I was going to make a guide for each of the classes, their advantages, disadvantages, all kinds of great stuff to tell you in terms of helping which class you should pick and stuff. And while I'm not an expert at every class, I did gather information that was kind of important, like which classes are top DPS, where they rank, and all that kind of good stuff. But starting out, we're going to talk about the Druid. Now, Druid is one of my favorite farming classes because the advantages of being a Druid in farming are insane. Druids can farm very good. Now, the balance is the caster version, which is a ranged DPS of a Druid. And balance is, of course, Moonkin form in most cases. You don't have to be in Moonkin to use your abilities, but Moonkin form boosts your DPS. Now, they make great farming classes because a lot of their abilities are far-reaching and can be cast instantly, so you can gather mobs up really quickly while also doing a lot of good AoE damage. Their best ability is, of course, Starfall, which if you use with the Glyph of Untamed Stars, will allow you to hit everything within 40 yards, which pretty much just brings it right to you. So they're a great farming class, and of the DPS specs, which there are two, Balance and Feral, in PvE, notice I said PvE, Balance is the higher DPS right now. It ranks at 13, and you do about 84,000 DPS in best in slot gear. So if you're going for best PvE DPS, you're going to want to go Balance as of 6.2. Now, Feral is the melee version of a Druid, and it uses agility. It's like a rogue, essentially, and in PvP, Feral is definitely what you want to roll. PvP Feral damage is crazy burst, and it's a lot of fun if you're a really big time PvPer that wants to PvP all the time. Definitely a really fun one to pick. With your time bursts and everything, the damage is absolutely insane. Feral can really beat the crap out of somebody, and it has great off heals too. It sounds funny to say, but Feral can heal crazily. Like, you'll be almost dead and full health instantly with the right proper setup in terms of glyphs and talents and everything. Feral can be a great DPS for PvP and a great off healer. Now, in terms of PvE, Feral ranks at 16 with 78,930 DPS. That is in best in slot gear, mind you. So if you're going for top PvE damage, you're going to want to be Balanced. Guardian is the Druid's form of tanking. With 6.2, Guardian received a ton of great buffs. It was lacking quite a bit before then, but it is now an extremely good tanking spec. So if you're going for tanking, Guardian is really good now that 6.2 is released. Before that, it just was missing a bunch of stuff, but they did buff things like self-healing, so you don't have to leave bear form to cast Healing Touch. They got armor increases, they got damage mitigation that they really didn't have. It just got huge buffs with 6.2. Definitely, if you want to tank, Guardian is a really good spec to try right now. And it makes Druid a little more fun too, because now they're very versatile in the fact that they can be used efficiently with each of their specs. But finally, with Restoration, is of course the Druid's form of healing. Now, Restoration is more of like a raid healer. A lot of your abilities will be instant cast, they heal over time, and they don't heal as much, but they can be cast on a ton of people during their duration. So you won't really stop healing, you'll just be healing multiple people constantly. And they do not as well when it comes to tank healing because their abilities aren't as strong as many of the other healing classes for one single target, like a Paladin, Holy Paladin. His single target healing is crazy, as opposed to a Resto Druid. Because, like I said, most of your abilities are heal over time abilities. So they're not doing a lot of instant healing, rather they're just keeping everybody slowly healed up, while somebody else is focus healing them to top. So Resto, really good raid healer, not so much in terms of single target healer. But that's Druid for you. Next on our list is the Paladin. The Paladin has 3 specs. It can be a melee DPS, a tank, or healer, just like the Druid. Now, the only difference is, Druid has 4 specs, technically. It can be range or melee DPS, and it's the only class that can actually do 4 specs. So, with Paladin, your melee DPS is Retribution. All of your abilities are based on strength. Strength in terms of your damage. The melee DPS of a Paladin right now ranks at number 6 at 93,177, and this is in best in slot gear. In your maximum DPS, though, Retribution can burst at number 2, being the highest DPS, only followed by the Arcane Mage. Their melee DPS is very consistent, and it's, like I said, it's the second in burst, and it can do a huge amount of damage. But protection is, of course, their melee tanking spec. I don't know why I said melee. Every tank has to be in melee range. But anyways, protection is their tank spec. Protection is, for at least Paladins, one of the lowest specs right now from what I've read. Protection is the least efficient of all the other... Paladin protection is the least efficient of all the other tanking specs right now. So, in terms of tanking, definitely not really the class you're going to want to run right now. And then, of course, their Holy Healing is a great single target healer. Holy Paladins are super duper fun when you're doing PvP. Like, their burst healing is crazy, and it's really, really fun, and they also make extremely good tank healers for PvE raiding. Very, very good at single target healing. Their AoE healing is pretty low, though. Like, they do some really good AoE healing, but it's just nowhere near like a Resto Druid or a Holy Priest. They both got better AoE heals by far than like a Holy Paladin. They did get a lot better when Cataclysm came around. They added a couple abilities that made their AoE healing possible. Before that, they had nothing. So they did have some abilities come into play, like their talent, the hammer, the Light's Hammer, makes a huge amount of healing during its duration. It's a great ability. But in terms of healing, they're going to make a great tank healer, not so much a raid healer. As for their advantages, they don't really have advantages when it comes to farming. Paladins are just not really a farming class. They miss a lot of the stuff that makes farming easiest, so they don't have a lot of advantages when it comes to farming, other than the fact that they move faster. One of their talents is like Crusader Mount. Let me find the exact name of it. Heart of the Crusade. Your mount speed is increased by 20%. So, they can move really fast when it comes to like mount farming, collecting herbs, or etc. That's their best advantage. But other than that, they're kind of lacking in the farming aspect. So if you're looking for farming, Paladin's not the best class. But if you're liking the PvP style, Retribution is really high burst, and Holy is really fun in PvP. So, they're a good class for that. What's on our list is the Monk, which is another really versatile class. It can be a melee DPS, a healer, or a tank, just like the previous two. But the thing about monks is they're actually a really challenging class to play. And if you haven't tried a monk and you want a challenge, go ahead and try one and try to do your best ability in each of the specs. It doesn't really matter which spec you're picking, because monks do have a lot of stuff to do. They're always hitting buttons, and it's really insane how much they have to do compared to the other classes. Some classes are really simple. You hit 2 or 3 buttons, and you're top DPS. Monks don't get that option, and it's really unfortunate for them right now, because even in best in slot gear, they're almost at the very bottom of the list for DPS. They rank 23 or 24 in best in slot gear with 70,000 DPS. So, unfortunate for monk players, because as I said, their class is one of the hardest to do the absolute perfect rotation. But their melee DPS, it's really fun to play, especially in PvP. If you want a fun class to play play Monk. Like, the melee in PvP is awesome. The melee in PvP, or PvE, excuse me, is very challenging. Always doing stuff to get your rotation perfect. It's just crazy what you gotta do. And the reason they're so difficult is they use a chi system as one of their main resources, and to rotate your chi perfectly, it's hard. Even for their healing spec, it's the same. Healing on a monk is super challenging too. You're always doing something. They're really good raid healers. They're really good single target healers too. They do a lot of single target healing, and they're if you want the funnest class to play in PvP healing, Monk by far. Just awesome how much versatility they have. They do have quite a bit of CC, which can be really fun in PvP too. And all around, healing Monk is very awesome. Brewmaster is the tanking version of a Monk. Right now, with 6.2, they're pretty good. They got a decent buff. And they're just, like I said, always challenging too. The Brewmaster tanks have a lot of stuff to do. Very challenging. Indeed, very difficult to play too. But they do have a good DPS in terms of a tank. They can hit quite a bit. And they're right now ranked about 3rd. First is DK, second's Guardian Druid, and then third Brewmaster tanks. So, a really fun class to play. If you're beginning out, they level the fastest too amongst all the other classes because they get a daily quest that gives them faster XP gain, and they get another quest every like 10 levels, which allows them faster XP gain too. So, if you want to level a new class and you want to have a lot of fun playing it, definitely give monks a try. They're a pretty good farming class too, because they can travel around fast with things like their roll and stuff. And then they got their abilities like the whirlwind kick that AoE everything that's pretty close to them. Definitely a fun class. If you haven't tried it, give a monk a try and start leveling one right now. Next on our list is the warrior, which can either be a tank or a DPS. Now, in terms of DPS, warriors are getting a lot of loving right now. They are second on the list of best DPS with best in slot gear. As a Fury one-hand warrior, you could do 98,544. A Fury two-hand warrior, you could do 95,567, which ranks number 4. Ranking at number 7, a Fury warrior could do 92,774. And ranked at number 11, Gladiator, which is the tanking version of DPS essentially, you could do 85,712. So, lots of loving for the DPS warriors right now. Warriors are a really good class in PvP. They have a lot of slowing abilities, and they can interrupt a lot. They can remove immunity bubbles, which most other classes can't do that. And they just can really take down a class efficiently. They have a lot of self-healing abilities and abilities to remove damage on them, so it's really good. And just overall, a really great class. A lot of the great PvPers like Swifty and Bahira are warriors. They love to play warriors, so if that tells you anything, warriors are a really good PvP class. The protection tank, however, is not getting a lot of loving right now. Now, don't let me negate that. As if you want to tank on a warrior, you can tank on a warrior. Like Method, which is one of the top guilds in the world, has a main tank as a warrior. So it doesn't mean that you can't do it just because it's not the number 1 tank right now. It's ranked at the lowest. But it doesn't really matter. If you're good at your class, you can get into a raid as any spec class, ability, whatever. You will get into a raid as long as you can play it right. So, rolling a protection warrior, while it's not getting too much love right now, it doesn't mean it's bad. You'll get a lot of love if you love raided battlegrounds. Prot warriors are really, really good in raided battlegrounds. They can traverse the map really well with abilities like intervene and heroic leap and stuff. It's just really fun to play a Prot warrior in a raided battleground. Next on our list is the Deathknight. The infamous Deathknight. Now, if you're just starting out and you haven't played World of Warcraft before and you're trying to play as a Deathknight, you won't be able to because you need a character that's at least level 55 before you'll be able to roll a Deathknight. because that's what level they start when they begin leveling. But in terms of Deathknights, they can be melee DPS or a tank. And right now, for the tanking, a Deathknight is the best tank. According to ratings and everything, a Deathknight will be the best tank. They have a huge amount of damage mitigation. Like, they can survive crazy amounts of time without healing in some circumstances by themselves, because their main ability puts a shield on them that absorbs damage while also healing them. So they just are absolutely crazy when it comes to tanking. They can solo a lot of content that other classes struggle with if you're in blood spec. It's very simple to do. So they're very OP as a tank. And as a melee DPS right now in Frost, you'll be getting 97,781 DPS in best in slot gear with one-handers. That puts you at number 3 on the DPS list. Number 10, Unholy, you'll do 87,918 best in slot gear, and number 12, Frost two-handers at 85,042. But in terms of melee DPS, very high right now. So if you're loving the high DPS, Frost can get you there. And if you love PvP, DKs are usually always really OP. And I don't say that as I'm saying DKs are OP, because of course not all DKs are OP, but DKs never seem to get nerfed. Like, the game, the devs just don't think when they make DKs, and they just usually are extremely good in arenas and rated battlegrounds too. You'll get a lot of target calling DKs that can get huge ratings because they're just really good target callers. So DKs are awesome in PvP, and Blizzard's response when they're too OP is to just buff them. I don't know what Blizzard's thinking when they do that sometimes, but DKs usually, one of your specs for DPS is going to be OP in the arena. It switches between Frost and Unholy, but one of them is going to be strong no matter what. Now, Unholy is a lot more challenging to play than Frost, but if it's the best spec, try it. It's definitely going to get you there, because if you love PvP, DK is a great class to go. No matter what season it is, it always feels like you're getting a little bit of loving. So, that's it for the DK. Moving on. Next on our list is the Hunter, which is just a range DPS class. They can't do anything aside from range DPS. But they are a very fun class to play. Now, in terms of DPS, right now, Marksman is the top DPS. And a lot of its abilities are just single target range shots that do huge amounts of damage. Marksman is ranked number 8 at 88,215. Now, the differences between each of the specs is pretty vast. The next spec is Beast Mastery, which drops all the way down to rank 19 at 75,258. And then the last spec, Survival, is the absolute worst DPS right now at 64,949. So, very different specs. Survival uses a lot of dots, casting damage, sort of. It's based on your agility, but it does magic damage through like the Black Arrow, which is a damage over time, explosive shot, etc. And then Beast Mastery uses a lot of your pet damage as your main damage. Now, the thing that makes Hunters really good is Hunters are a great farming class. They got range abilities, they can gather adds really quickly, and they can solo almost anything. And I say that as a joke, really, but they really can solo almost anything. There's other classes that'll struggle to solo something, and a Hunter can do it pretty easily. And it's just really fun to play him. If you haven't played a Hunter, give him a try. You'll see what I mean. I use Hunters to solo my content that I want to farm mounts on that I couldn't do it on any of my other characters. Like most of the Mist of Pandaria stuff, I can solo it with a Hunter. It's just really insane if you see what Hunters can solo. If you just look at the YouTube videos, it's just nuts. And but they're really fun to play. If you want to top your DPS, you're going to have to go Marksman for the Hunter. And it's just, like I said, a single damage target shots that do huge hits. In PvP, hunters are really versatile. They have extreme burst DPS, very crazy, and they can do a lot of CC. They have things like traps, which, stun the target and stuff. They have abilities which make the target fall asleep. It's called your Wyvern shot, or Wyvern, and it can make your target sleep for a while. They can stun. It's just very, very versatile. Awesome class. If you haven't tried a hunter, give it a try. And as you'll see, I said, they can solo anything, and you'll just be amazed. But that's it for them. The list is the Mage, and in my opinion, Mage is one of the coolest and funnest classes in the game. They just got really silly abilities, some of them, and they're just a really fun class to play. They're also the top DPS in game currently. Arcane is top DPS, number 1, at 107,036 DPS. This is almost 10,000 DPS between the rank 2. It's a crazy vast difference if you think 10k between rank 1 and rank 2. That's just like the top of a mountain and the bottom of it difference. Just way out there. Anyways, if you go to their second top DPS, it would be Frost. It is rank 5 at 94,634. And then if you go to their last DPS, Fire, it drops all the way to 14 at 83,764. So if you're going to top your DPS, you're going to want to go Arcane. Now, for PvP, Frost has always been awesome. Mages just can freeze and burst down a target in almost no time at all. If you see those rank 1 mages out there for PvP, they just destroy targets almost instantly. And they got lots of CC abilities where they can freeze their target, sheep their target, silence their target. It's just crazy how much CC a mage can do and just destroy the enemy. They're really, 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 really fun in PvP. And if you've never played a mage and you want to do PvP, definitely give it a try. Now, like I said, Arcane is the top DPS, but it's one of the most boring specs in the entire game. Like, your top DPS is a pretty simple, easy rotation, and it used to be like that in Wrath of the Lich King. Arcane was top DPS back then too, and it was pretty much the same thing. A super boring, very simple rotation. Arcane has never been a difficult rotation, and it's just a boring spec. I would rather play Frost in PvE, even if it's less DPS, just simply for the fact that Arcane is boring. It really, really is. Now, Fire, it's not getting a lot of love right now, but Fire is pretty fun to play too. It's one of the specs that you can actually move in DPS. They got rid of most movement casting, but Fire still has one little ability called Scorch that allows him to move and cast, so it's really fun for that ability too. They're a great farming spec because they have tons of AoE abilities, and they can handle vast amounts of mobs without any problem. Especially in Frost, you can kill huge amounts of mobs without taking any damage at all. But really fun spec. You'll never run out of food and water because you can always make your own. And you can always teleport, so you got teleports to every capital and every city all around. It's really easy for a mage to get around too. So really fun class. Definitely really cool. And yeah, that's it for Mage. Next on our list is Rogue, and if you're playing a Rogue, they are a melee DPS class. All three of their specs are melee DPS. Assassination uses daggers. Combat uses swords, maces, and axes usually. And then subtly would use daggers again. Now, unfortunately for poor rogues, they're not getting a lot of love in at this point in time. Subtlety is their top DPS at 75,919, and that ranks number 18 on the list of 27. And combat and assassination are at 25 and 26, combat being 70,160, assassination being 67,243. So no love for rogue DPS right now. But that doesn't mean they're a bad class to play. They are amazing in PvP. They've always been really, really annoying, but at the same time, amazing PvP classes. Their abilities make it so they can Um, when paired with other abilities, you're going to take down a class super quick, and they just got tons of stun, so they can keep your target stunned all the time. And they of course have their little cloud, which makes anything inside the cloud untargetable, so they can burst it down while not receiving any heals on their target. They're just a crazy class, and they're great at farming too. Like, they get one ability called Pickpocket, which is when you're in stealth, you can pickpocket a target and receive some kind of loot from the target, like either gold or some gray items, and occasionally a lockbox. And in these lockboxes, usually you'll get quite a substantial amount of gold. If you're on the warlords, you'll get a lot of gold in them, and then you'll also get occasionally epics. So you can make a lot of money pickpocketing, which no other class can do. And they're really, really fast when it comes to farming instances. Usually you can stealth around monsters, so you get around very, very quickly. And on top of that, you can move almost mount speed while in stealth when you pair your abilities together. So you're going to move constantly at an extremely fast pace, making them great instance farmers. It's just awesome to play a rogue. And as I said, they're very, very good at PvP. So if you want to do PvP, rogue is a great starting class and a great ending class. Like, it's basically a PvP class. That's where it's always been its best. Not always been on the top. It has had its days, but if you want a PvP, definitely try a rogue. Definitely very versatile, and also really good farmers when it comes to making gold. So that's it for the rogue. Next is, of course, my favorite class, the Warlock. Now, Warlocks are ranged DPS classes, but each of their DPS specs vary very differently to the other specs, abilities, and how they work. So, they got Destruction, Demonology, and Affliction. Now, right now, in terms of DPS, their highest DPS spec is Destruction. It ranks number 9 at 88,088 DPS. Their second highest spec is Demonology, which ranks number 15 at 80,150 DPS. And then last is Affliction at 75,181. Now, mind you, this is PvE DPS. They do very, very differently in PvP. Now, my favorite class is Warlocks, just because they're really, I don't know, I just love Warlocks. It's a great farming class. They have a lot of AoE abilities. If you're playing Affliction, you can dot everything around you, and it'll literally come to you and pretty much die as it reaches you, so you don't have to do a lot of any difficulty. In Demonology, you can have your pets tank for obscene amounts of damages, and what really made me start playing my Warlock a lot was back in Cataclysm. They made it so Demonology Warlocks could essentially tank for a short period of time. It was possible to tank as a Warlock, and I thought it was going to become a thing. So I played my Warlock, and I was tanking, looking for Raid Dragon Soul, and it was a lot of fun. People were just like, why is this Warlock tanking? But I loved doing it, and that's what made me start playing my Warlock full-time. Before that, I played a Resto Shaman up until that point. But definitely full-time Warlock happened because I was trying to make Warlock tanks a real thing. And it did work. I tanked normal Dragon Soul, but I never made it to heroic tanking. So, anyways, Warlocks are really cool, and they're really good money makers. Like, the main reason they're great money makers is you can farm the Sealed Tome, which is the Warlock's equivalent of the Green Fire Quest, and you sell it to other Warlocks. It can make you tons of gold because everybody wants Green Fire, and really good for money making. But also, Warlocks are awesome at PvP. Usually the best spec to choose for PvP is going to be Affliction, and it's just because in rated battlegrounds, Affliction Warlocks are usually going to do top damage, and by crazy high amounts compared to the other ones, just because if there's 10 people out there, you could pretty much put your dots on all 10 of those people. and you're just going to be racking up the damage. It causes constant pressure in Raid of Battlegrounds, so lots of damage. Raid of Battlegrounds, and Affliction's really, really good in Arena too, because you're going to be damaging, and there's only usually one healer in 2 vs 2 and 3 vs 3. So that damage is just really hard for one person to keep up with. They're just awesome. I love Warlocks. I would recommend playing one if you don't. Maybe not full time, but definitely give Warlocks a try. They're awesome. So, yeah. Anyways, moving along. On our list is Shaman, which Shaman has 3 specs. It has Resto, which is the healing version, Enhancement, which is the melee DPS version, and then Elemental, which is the range DPS version. For the DPS right now, it's not getting a lot of loving. Elemental is ranked 17 at 76,302, and Enhancement is below it at 74,986. So they're not the worst, but they're pretty far down on the list. As for me specifically, I played a Shaman for a very long time. I went from Burning Crusade till the end of Cataclysm playing nothing but a Resto Shaman. Resto Shamans are awesome at PvP. They have a lot of interrupting abilities, things that break you out of many of the stuns, slows, fears, and stuff. Just all kinds of versatility for PvP. Resto is awesome and fun to play. Now, Enhancement has a lot more bursts in PvP because of many of your abilities. You summon Ghost Wolves and your Ascendants and stuff. You can just do crazy, obscene amounts of burst. And then Elemental is really fun to play in PvP too. Shamans are more of like a supporting class, I would say. Their bursts can get really high, but their abilities come from their main efficiency comes from their supporting abilities. So really good for that matter. But definitely really cool to play. They're really good farmers. You can instant cast and go into things like Ghost Wolf and stuff, so you can get around really quickly. Definitely really fun to play. In terms of PvE, I've always preferred healing on a Shaman, but DPSing I did it for a while too, and it's really fun. So, Shaman's really great at PvP. In my opinion, they're better at PvP than they'll ever be at PvE, but that's just my personal opinion. And, yeah, that's it for Shamans anyways. Last on our list is Priests. Now, Priests can either be ranged DPS as a caster, or they can have 2 different healing specs. Their ranged DPS is Shadow, and it's unfortunate, it's ranked 22 on the list of 27, and you'll be doing about 73,700 DPS. It's pretty darn low, but don't let anything anyone ever tells you discourage you from playing what you want to play. You will find a group. It doesn't matter how low you are on the DPS. If you're good at your class, you're going to find a group, and you'll still be useful to that group. Shadow has a lot of versatility, and it's very, very helpful. And you can be an off healer in the event something bad happens. Shadow can still heal really, really well in terms of DPS class. So, it doesn't matter what the DPS gods say, you'll still be useful. Shadow does a lot of damage over time abilities, and it uses a very strange mechanic called Shadow Orbs, but it's a fun class to play. Now you have Holy, which is more of your healing spec for AoE healing. It does a lot of raid healing. It's very, very high because Priests have always been one of the best healing classes in the game. Holy can do a lot of healing on the raid, and it can do really good for tank healing too. Not so much the tank healing, that's what Discipline is, but Holy healing is still very, very useful for it. And then, of course, like I said, Discipline is like the tank healer. It does a lot of single target healing. You can actually DPS and heal people at the same time. Whatever your damage does, it'll heal targets for the same amount of the damage, making it really fun. So you'll be like doing a crazy amount of healing while getting to do damage too. Really, really neat. Of course, if you're doing your targeted heals, it heals a lot more. A lot of your heals in Holy are absorption abilities. So you're not actually healing, rather you're just absorbing damage through spells like the Power Word Shield. You'll absorb huge amounts of damage just through a bubble. And that's what Discipline is, a lot of absorption. But then you can also do, of course, the DPS healing, making it really fun. Now, for PvP-wise, Shadow is awesome. Shadow paired with a class like a rogue, you can silence the target and then stun the crap out of it. You'll burst them down really good. Priest and Rogue has been always one of the best combinations since the beginning of Arena, essentially. A lot of people have played Priest and Rogue, and you can do awesome at it. But Shadow being really fun for PvP. I love Shadow PvP. You're going to do crazy amounts of damage in RPGs because, like the Affliction Warlock, you're able to dot everybody up, and it just gives you way high damage, which makes you a great class too because you're putting constant pressure, which keeps the targets going down, and yeah, everybody's dying, and you're to thank. But Discipline is the PvP healing. It's really fun to play Discipline as a PvP healer. You've got lots of CCs like Fears, and while it's not very useful, there's the talent Dominate Mind. Unfortunately, it used to be really good because you could use this ability paired with many other things, but you can't really get rid of Psychic Scream. Psychic Scream's your best ability. It used to be really fun when you could mind control people and jump them off and everything, but they got rid of that, so unfortunately all you got is like your Fear. But they're really good for, they can make silence and duration, silence immunities, so you can get away with healing while getting kicked and stuff. They've just always been really fun for PvP. So if you want to be a PvP healer, Discipline is really cool to try. Shadow is even more fun to do. But yeah, give them a try. Anyways, I thank you guys for watching. I hope my random gibbering has actually been useful to somebody at some point. I hope you learned something. And as always, I appreciate your support. And I'll talk to you again soon, everyone. Remember, everyone, if you want to support Murgle WoW, please just like, share, and subscribe to my videos. And I will talk to you again soon.